Hi there, I'm Jamie Taylor. Welcome to Your Health Matters, brought to you by Kingman Regional Medical Center, your community-owned hospital. This program focuses on healthcare issues relevant to you, your family, or your friends. I've got a great guest on the show today, so I hope you'll stay tuned and join us. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My guest today is Nancy Pfaff, the Director of Home Health and Hospice here at KRMC. Thanks for being on the show, Nance.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks
for asking me.
Well, I'm excited to have you on because hospice has been kind of near and dear to my heart since really when I first started here. That was one of the first projects I had, was to start fundraising for the Foundation for Hospice. And then it was within about a year that we started talking about a hospice home. And now you're the director of both, so that's awesome.
Well, it has been a long road, but
yes.
I think we're finally getting somewhere.
Okay, good.
And we do. The house is beautiful.
Yes.
The Joan and Diana Hospice House is beautiful.
It is.
And it's been a real haven for those people who needed it,
right,
and their families.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
Well, before we go into that too much, tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in Kingman?
I've been in Kingman for 8.5 years.
Okay, so you came and started at the hospital.
I started at the hospital in August of 2003.
Oh, 2003. Oh, three. That's right. Okay, 2003.
2003, and I was Director of Home Health for all those years. I took over the additional duties of Director of Hospice a year ago.
Okay, so before Kingman.
Before Kingman, I was Director of Home Health in Lake Havasu for 14 years.
Oh, for 14 years. You were
at
there
the
for
hospital.
a while. Down there, I call that Hades down there.
Yeah.
There's so much hotter
I
than
love it. I love the heat. I love the heat.
Well, that's because you're like me, from Minnesota originally, and so I don't know if we ever get warm.
No.
The bones just like go. Just always remember that cold.
No.
And
people complain about cold, and I say, no.
You don't know cold until you've experienced a Minnesota winter, right?
True.
Okay, so you came to. Were you still living in Havasu?
I lived in Havasu for about 4 months and traveled back and forth every day for about 4 months, and then I just felt like I was not committing myself the way I needed to.
Okay.
I felt I liked the Kingman community, and I thought, you know what, I need to just do this. So we moved up here.
Very good. Okay. So home health, let's talk a little bit about the difference between home health and hospice. Because I know that, and actually I know that people have kind of a misinformation about home health a lot of times too, because KRMC's home health is medical, right? So explain what that does.
There's lots of different parts to what people call home care. There's home health, there's home private care, there's durable equipment, there's hospice. And so the KRMC Home Health Department is certified by Medicare, certified by the state, and we provide short-term medical care for folks who need skilled nursing or therapies of some kind.
Okay. So
over the short-term basis.
Right, and it's not like a 24-hour nurse that stays at the house or things like that, a caregiver.
No.
No.
We work with the patient's family, and the physician to get them the care that they need to get them to their highest level of ability.
Okay, so this is kind of like when someone's been in the hospital for either a stroke or some kind of a medical issue, and they go home, but they still aren't 100%, right?
New diagnosis, lots of new medications, maybe
bandage changes.
Yeah, maybe a new wound of some kind, or maybe it's just that they need instruction on how to take care of their meds, take their medications, when to call the doctor, what to look for.
Okay.
We may be in there for 3 or 4 weeks, or maybe in there for 2 to 4 months. It just depends on what the patient needs.
Okay. And it's not the type of thing that someone can just call up and go, hey, home health, I need you to come change a bandage.
No, that's just not covered. It's not covered by Medicare. It's not covered usually by insurance.
So they usually have to have a physician, or not usually, they have to have a physician referral, right?
You have to have a physician referral, physician to direct the patient's care.
Okay.
Because we don't direct the care, the doctor does, and we do pretty much what he tells us.
Okay, okay. So then from home health, then hospice, which I know is kind of a separate, but yet under the same umbrella maybe of home care, right?
Hospice is different in that we still, the primary responsibilities of our staff are to make home visits, to work with the patients regarding their medication, regarding their symptom control, to help them feel better. Hospice is there to support the patient and the family in the tough times that they got going on.
Usually it's in the last 6 months of a...
Usually in the last 6 months of life, but not necessarily. We've had patients who, of course, live lots longer. We do now currently have some on. We have folks that improve to the point where we discharge them. It's not a real common thing, but it does happen.
It does happen, right?
All of a sudden they start getting some real intensive medical care. They get nurses coming out. They get people helping them know what to do, how to take care of themselves properly, and the emotional support is huge.
And
huge.
That's another important thing I think about hospice is, and home health I think has the same thing, the team approach, and we talk about that frequently in a lot of the different departments of KRMC. It's not like one individual, there's a team approach. And with hospice, I mean, you've got a social worker, a nurse, the chaplain that calls, I'm missing
bereavement counselor, our nursing assistants. Who am I missing?
I know, I'm trying to
occasionally we'll have therapists involved if somebody needs, instructions on safety in the home, or making
or maybe
the home work.
helping to turn the patient, things like that. And the volunteer, the hospice
and the volunteers are huge.
Right.
We have a big volunteer program.
Right. So those all touch the hospice patient and their family. Right.
Yes.
In different aspects, and I think it start again. It's a physician referral to hospice.
It's a physician referral. Although we can take suggestive referrals from anyone. I mean, anybody could call us and say, I have a neighbor next door that I just think there's something happening or something going on. Well, okay, talk to your neighbor, see if she would be, willing to talk to her doctor about calling us. Or they can call us and we can get a hold of the doctor and say, we've had an inquiry on this patient.
What is the prognosis?
Is there something that we can help with here, or whatever? We have to do it through the physician, but we can eventually, but we can take referrals from anyone.
So is there the main number, the 692-4680, I think, isn't it?
That's correct.
I know Cindy's number. You can tell I call her once in a while.
That's correct.
So the hospice is in-home care, the primary hospice that we have.
Correct.
And then we have the hospice home, the Joan and Diana hospice home that we built. And of course, that's a whole story, I think, in and of itself, because we started fundraising for that. I believe it was in end of 04, early 05. We decided we needed a brick and mortar home, and we started fundraising. We did races. We sat on the roof of Taco Bell, for crying out loud.
I recall that.
We played golf. I mean, we did all kinds of different things to raise money for that. And the whole community really got behind getting that hospice home built. It was, and of course then we had the reason that it's called the Joan and Diana Hospice Home is because we had two families, the Lingenfelters and the Beckers here in town, that did significant contributions. I mean, they each gave over $1 million apiece to help with that. But then it was all the other, $5, $10, $50, $500 that came in and eventually gave us enough to be able to build that.
It all adds up.
It does, and that's why I say it's a community-owned home, because I mean, we even had some classrooms, some kids that saved pennies and dimes and nickels, or they did little bake sales and stuff and brought us their money. So, really the whole community got behind getting that home built.
Well, it's really a big deal for a community this size to be able to have something like this, because this is not the status quo across the nation.
Right?
No. And especially something that's this nice.
Right. I mean, it is a beautiful, beautiful facility. It is something definitely that Kingman should be proud of, and
absolutely
KRMC should be proud of.
Yep.
And I think what's, like you said, what makes it so special is that for a community this size to have, and it's not just a house. I mean, it is a home, and it was built and decorated to have that home feeling. So that if someone, it's for those individuals, and it's not necessarily, and I learned, you know, I've learned a lot about hospice over the last few years too, that it's not just for the patient goes to die, if you would. It's more for respite care, right, for families that have had.
It's frequently more often for respite care.
Yeah.
There's usually two primary reasons that the patients would go in. One is if they have symptoms that are bothering them to the point that we cannot control those symptoms
So like
at home.
pain management.
You know, if the pain gets too severe, or if there are other problems with
eating, or
nausea and vomiting, or whatever happens to be, and you can't control it at home, they can go in there and get intensive nursing care for 24/7.
Okay.
And help get those symptoms under control, and then they can go back home.
Okay. Okay.
And the second purpose of the home is for respite care for the families.
And what is
or the
respite care? What does
caregivers.
that mean?
Respite care just means that the family is very, it's difficult to take care of someone who needs you
24/7.
all the time.
Right.
And they need a break sometimes. And that's basically what it's for, to give those caregivers a break so that they can have a few days where they can sleep well and do what they need to do for themselves.
Right. Maybe go to visit family somewhere else, or just get a little mini
and
break.
then the patient's taken care of.
And it's nice to know that they have some place that they can bring them. So the patients that you get at the hospice home then are already on hospice. Usually they've been on hospice, and then, like you said, they'll come in
for the most part.
Yeah, symptom management or whatever. So
it's not like most people might think that that is where you go to die. That is not. That's not the purpose of the hospice house. The purpose is for symptom control and for respite for the family.
Well, and as you said, it's a beautiful facility, and it's kind of an evolving facility as well. I mean, with the garden that's out and back, we have the memorial garden with the butterflies and the bricks that they're doing.
It's beautiful. We have our new wall up now, so there's some privacy back there. It helps block the wind.
Right, wind and Kingman.
The Kingman wind.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that garden and other opportunities. We'll be back right after this break.
Okay.
So stick around. We'll be right back, and we'll learn more about the hospice home. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My guest today is Nancy Pfaff, the Director of Home Health and Hospice. Thanks for being on the show, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Every time I do this show, I say it every week. I learn something new myself, so it's always good to have these different guests on the show. We were talking about the hospice home before the break, and the garden that we talked about. We just put that wall up this past summer, which add that privacy, and it's also now people are able to buy bricks in memory of a loved one that they can put there. So that's kind of a lasting legacy, almost a memorial for them. Of course, inside we have. I mean, it's such a beautiful facility, and people could come and look at it, right?
Oh,
I mean,
we welcome people to come. We
guests.
really would like to see folks come and check it out so they know what's available, and we'd be happy to give them a tour anytime they want to show up.
Very good. Well, I know there's a beautiful baby grand player piano there that can either be played by a pianist if someone's a good, or it plays recorded music as well, like the old-fashioned, what they call those, player piano sort of things. And then, of course, the beautiful fireplace, and then we have the artwork that was donated by Fred Lucas, who's now deceased, and such beautiful Grand Canyons. And then, well, the whole home was furnished with donations of some form or another. And of course, the foundation, we raised the money to build it, and then we're committed to continuing to fundraise for it until it's in the black. That may be a while, because hospice is not necessarily a money maker, as they say, right?
Not a money-making proposition.
No, but it's the right thing to do, and I guess that's one of the things that I am so proud of and love about KRMC, is that we do things because it's the right thing to do, not always because it's going to make us
Absolutely,
money.
It's something that a community really needs to have available, and KRMC makes it available.
Right. Well, and death is, of course, a scary thing, both for the person passing as well as for the family. And hospice is really there for both, right?
Hospice is there for both.
In what ways?
For both. Well, for the patient, of course, is number one. Their pain management, their symptom control, their emotional support going through this process. And it is a process. We call it a transition. That's why we have the butterfly as our symbol. And it's a process and a transition, and it's a process and a transition for the family as well. So not only physical care for the patient and emotional support and assistance, but also very much for the families.
And that continues. I mean,
and that continues after
the patient passes
that
away.
That continues after the patient passes for up to a year. Our bereavement department, our bereavement counselor is Rhoda Deneau, and she and Denny Kovic and Denise Nelson all participate in the bereavement support classes that we have.
Yeah,
so
you've got two different times that I know that they meet, but then they and they do some one-to-one as well, right? If it's needed.
Yes, they will definitely meet one-to-one. There is no charge for those services, and anyone can take advantage of those services, even those patients who have not
gone through hospice.
Not gone through our hospice program. They
That's
can
good
call
to know.
our hospice, and we can determine if they'd like to meet with Rhoda or whatever.
And I know that
them.
they can call the main number, the 692-4680 number.
Yes, that's the number to call.
And they can get more information there about the dates and times of the classes, or to set up a
Absolutely.
time to meet. And that's probably the same number they would call if they have someone that they would like to, or would like
make a referral, or they have a question of maybe they have a family member and they're wondering, well, gee, do you think they maybe would qualify? Do you think maybe these folks could help us a little bit? We're the ones to call and answer those questions.
Great. Well, and I think we've talked about this before, that, I mean, death is obviously a scary thing. Everybody's kind of what we call stroking down the river of denial. Nobody wants to admit that it's really going to happen to them or to a loved one until it happens. And a lot of times, I think they wait too long, right? And there's so much help available earlier.
That's a really good point. That really is. That's something that hospices across the nation struggle with, is that the referral is not made until the patient's got 2 weeks left to
or
go.
days left. Yeah.
And they've gone through months of discomfort and pain and maybe family division and family upset. And if they can come earlier, if they can say earlier, we really need some help with this, we can help them make it a lot better.
Well, and I know the volunteers, I went through the volunteer training myself, and helping families learn the signs as death becomes more imminent, but just being there as a friend and to help them with some of those processes. And they do, your volunteers have done some kind of cool projects. I know they have the bears that they make, the stuffed bears from shirts or coats or something of a loved one. They make a memory bear.
Those are very
popular.
Yes, they are. People get a lot of comfort from that.
Right,
They're used to seeing their loved one in a certain shirt for
20,
their
30,
favorite shirt maybe, and they have their little remembrance then afterwards.
Okay.
But it's just very important to talk to someone early on. I mean, we can help with a lot of decisions, such as, advance directives, whether or not to do a DNR, or do not resuscitate, the end of life things that you have to take care of.
And you want to do that while the patient's still lucid and the family's still
and able to help make those decisions. So then the family feels better about doing it too.
Because they know it's what the patient wanted.
If they know it's what the patient wanted, then there's less division between family members as well.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. I think when you've got, again, it's that team. When everybody's on the same page and working together for the same, makes it a whole lot easier for all involved.
Yep.
We mentioned again, I'm going to use that number a lot, the 692-4680, because I just think it's really important that people have that number available to be able to call. And also if they're interested in volunteering.
Absolutely.
We're always, I know, looking for more hospice volunteers. Cindy Vaughter is the volunteer coordinator for hospice. And we do a number of different events through the year. Again, we're still doing the Race for Hospice in May. That's Mother's Day weekend. And last fall, we did the Spirit of Hospice Walk for the first time, and that was fun.
It was very fun.
Yeah, well received, and I think we're going to
had a good turnout,
yes,
and it was great.
We're going to do that again this year. I think it was just a really good event, and it also gave people an opportunity to see the hospice home. As we mentioned, you don't have to have someone necessarily that's dying right now. You could just I think it's important for people to plan ahead of time, because whether you want to admit it or not, it's going to happen to all of us at some point in time. And it's easier if you've made those plans ahead of time.
I had a 95-year-old woman speak to me a couple months ago, and she was talking about making arrangements for her husband, and who she was sure was going to pass before her. And maybe that's true and maybe not. But anyway, one of the things that she said that had been really, she had always appreciated, was that when her mother was, actually she was 5 years from her death, and she said, okay honey, we're going to go and we're going to figure out what we're going to do for what I want for my funeral. And we're going to go pick out a casket, and we're going to get everything all set and ready. And she said at the time she thought, oh my gosh, this is awful. And then when her mom passed, she said, thank God.
Yeah, it just
that
made
she
that
had done that, because it was so much easier for her and for the whole family, and they could celebrate her mom's life the way they wanted to and the way her mom wanted it done.
Instead of having to worry about all those other little details. Well, I even had my mom sit down and help me write her obituary.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, it sounds kind of morbid, but at the same time, who better knows their history than themselves, and what they want the rest of the world to know about than themselves, you know. And plus, it kind of was a wake-up call for her, because I thought she was not taking good enough care of herself, so I made her write her obituary. She lived a little bit longer, I think, because of that.
See, you never know.
You never know.
Because, you know, it kind of tweaks some things. Oh, gee, maybe I could do that different.
Maybe I'm not quite ready to go just yet. But I think, like we said, that team approach to hospice, and that it's there. Everyone that I have talked to who has experienced hospice has just nothing but wonderful things to say, that it helped them so much, and the family and their loved one. I'm sure you get letters like that all the time.
We get letters like that all the time. Our patient satisfaction scores are very, very, very high, or the family's satisfaction scores. And we have a great staff. I mean, I can't say enough about our staff. Every single one of them is just top of the line. Our nurses and social workers, our volunteers, our nurse aides, everybody.
Well, it takes someone special.
Everybody. Yes, it does.
You know, to be able to deal with death and dying on a regular basis. I mean, it's hard enough just, you know, 1 or 2 times, but when you're doing that on a daily basis, that's, you know, you got to be pretty
It can be draining. You have to have yourself together.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you got to be pretty grounded, connected, you know, have pretty much got your stuff together, as they say, to be able to. And obviously, like you said, you've got an incredible staff.
We do, we really do, and in home health as well. All the home health and hospice staff are really, most of them are long-term employees. They haven't gone anywhere. They love what they're doing, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Well, and being in a community like Kingman, we're you know, a little smaller. We know our neighbors and our friends, and that's who we're caring for. Right. You know, they're not perfect strangers. These are the neighbors and friends, or people you went to school with, or your kids are going to school with their grandkids, kind of thing. So that's, like I said, one of the things I love about Kingman is how it brings it home to us. So. Yes. Nancy, thank you for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
Hospice is not always an easy topic for people to talk about, and so I'm glad we were able to do that. Great. Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something today. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. We'll have a new guest. Take care.